I would also like to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors, the NROC project, Panda, who does physical and disability stuff for Minnesota ABE programs, Burlington English, who's always been a strong supporter of this conference, GED Testing Service, New Readers Press, Mini TESOL. They're all sponsors, which means that they're contributing their funds and a lot of the time their expertise to this conference. So thank you to them. If you have a chance, check out their websites, visit their stuff, use their materials as a way of showing support for what they do for us. So we're going to talk about building a classroom website. What I'd like you to do is in your browser, type in sites.new. So if we go up to our browser, whoops, let's pop this down a little bit so I can, there we go. If you type in sites.new, you will end up with a page that looks like this. If you're able to do that, would you just put in a yes into the chat or a Y, just so I can make sure that we are following along on our page? Do you seem to be going okay with that, Nick?
I'm seeing a lot of yeses, but
Okay.
one no. So I think since I am assigned to support for participants, I will chat with Joan in the chat.
Great, great. I appreciate that. As you can see, this is a template of a website. It's no harder to build a website really than it was to go to this site. But as you notice, it's pretty bland. The first thing I would do with a website is change my title. And I'm going to change it to Jason's class. And you can go ahead and do this on yours as well. And you're probably all familiar with these different buttons. This is our fonts. This is our font size, bold, italics, align. But one thing that we can do on here, if we decide we don't really like the way this looks, we can change our header type. So we can have this as a cover. So it covers this whole area. We have large banner, which is how we started this, and title only. So if you prefer one of those, choose one of those. If we decide that we're not in favor of this template or this theme, to the right, you'll see there's an insert, a pages, and a theme. We can go ahead and change our theme. And we can do a custom one. So we can upload a theme from somewhere else. We can search for different Google themes, but we're going to start with this simple one. But say we want to be a little more colorful, we can click on our colors. We can change our fonts inside here. And we can go and pick a specific color if we want. Or if you don't know all the coloring numbers you want, you can probably just do red. The other styles we have, if we like different styles, we can choose these different templates. Scrolling down shows us a few more. Was everybody able to find a theme that they liked? If so, put a yes in there. If not, put an N, and we'll try and help out the best we can. I was kind of excited about this, and I jumped into doing this right away, and I didn't really explain a whole lot about this session. This session evolved from last April, or last winter/spring. We did we did several seminars based on Google Suite tools that people were interested in. And I was fortunate enough to work with some other programs, and we did a Google website showcase. And several ABE programs were kind enough to show us what their websites were, how they worked, what worked best for them. But we didn't have a chance to actually build one just because we ran out of time. So in response to people who requested that, hey, I want to build one time, I decided to host this session so that we have a chance to actually build a website. I'm hoping that you're here because you're interested in building one. Maybe you're just kind of more interested in Google. You want something just for yourself personally, or you just want to see how it works. If you have a reason for building one, please put it in the chat when you have a moment. Once we have our theme figured out, and I'm going to switch back to something different. That looks a little classier, I think. So I'm going to go with that one. The next thing I'm going to do is decide if I like this image. If you don't like just having this plain background, you could change your image here, and we can select an image. And this is just an image gallery that's built into Google. You can do your own if you have your own background that you want to use. Maybe you want a picture of your school. Maybe you want one of you and your dog. Maybe you want one of students. You can pick whatever you want. You can pull it off your Google Drive if you want. I'll just take this. It's kind of generic enough, but people can see what it looks like. Has a little red tint to it. As you notice, now that we have a nice header and a nice title for our website, that's about all there is on here. So we're going to need to add a little more information. So we can do this by doing content blocks and sections. So underneath our insert button, which is on the left of the three, insert pages and themes. So we're going to go to insert this time, and we'll pick out a content block. And this will kind of be like a newspaper layout, if you want to think about that, or a website layout. And maybe I want to do one like this where I can edit my text and say, this is where I'm going to put in things about math. And here I'm going to do things about football, because I like football. It has nothing to do with ABE, but I do like football. And I can change
Jason,
my.
can you also show us where the images gallery is?
Sure. So when I did this change image, I went to select image. So change image, select image. And it came up right away with gallery. So this is just built into Google Sites. And you just click on the one you want. These are just banner colors. If you want something a little more fun, whimsical, trippy, if you want to call it trippy, or if you would rather have something oceanish or typewriter, musical, we just click the one we want. I will switch mine by clicking on it and selecting. So now my banner image is different. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
And
Okay.
I would just like to point out that if you wanted to use your own picture on that image gallery that you were showing, there was an option for Google Drive too, or Google Photos. If you're using Google Photos, you can pull in from your photo album. So you don't have to use Google's stuff. If you want to use your own, you can just upload a picture into your Google Drive and pull it in from there.
Correct. Or you could just upload it from your desktop using the upload button. So now we have a little more information on here so that I can create extra things or talk about different things. I can also add more content blocks. Just click another one and it automatically appears below. And again, with these sections, I can change those as well. So these content blocks are sections. I can click on the color and I can change the style that I want them to be. So this matches more. And this is the little palette on the left that I'm doing this with. And again, I can put an image in here if I want. And it'll fill in that section with an image. Nick and I talked about one of the reasons why I thought Google Sites was a good thing for us to practice with is that website creation has become so much easier than it ever was years ago. A lot of things are drag and drop now. Just click buttons to fill in. You don't have to know cascading style sheets or the latest version of HTML. This is how most of them are set up now. I'm sure you've heard of Squarespace or Wix or GoDaddy or WordPress. Most of them are all like this, where it's picking a template and then you just deciding what you want to add in here. If you wanted to add in a calendar, you could add in a calendar.
Hey, Jason, we have a
Yeah.
active chat going on here, and there's a good question that I don't have an answer for, so
Okay.
I'm going to call it out for you. And that's
Sure.
from Kristen Fugelseth, who's asking about making it easier to find their website. So she's got one set up, and it's sites.google.com/northwestservice.org/ABE resource manual. And the URL is really long and cumbersome. So she's asking, is there a way to purchase a name or something easier and shorter to remember?
There is a way to add your site to a domain. And I believe it's custom domains. So if you go into settings, custom domains, and work through this, once you have a domain, you can link it to the site and then it'll come up with whatever you want. So if you buy northwestservicecoop.org, you can set it up so it just links to this page itself. The other thing that I've discovered is that you can actually use tinyURL. And I actually did this on one of what will end up being a template. I'll show you a little bit later. I set it up to be a tinyURL, and that way it's a lot easier to remember.
Easier
For
to remember,
branding,
but not searchable, which is, I think, what Kirsten's looking for. So that thing in the settings with the custom domain might be exactly
Yep.
what she needs. Mhm.
yeah, for sure. If you want it to be more brandable, then for sure you'd want a custom domain. But yeah, you can hook one of these up to a search engine and have it run with a www.whatever.com. The other thing you can do, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but it seems to fit in. We can publish our website. So right now, if we push publish, we can call this Jason B. So now this website is actually going to be sites.google.com/JBBBB. And I can decide who gets to share, who I can share this with. I can make it to the public. So I'll do that. And if I publish this site is now actually live. If you typed it into a browser, you would go and you would actually find this website. This is a real website. So if you push publish, your sites are now actual websites on the internet. And they're live with any change you make. It will change it for everybody else as well. So creating a website was really as easy as just publishing once you created it, right? So I could go file, start a new site, and give it a name, Jason 2. And if I publish this one, Jason 2, boom. That's really all we need to do to literally create a website on the internet.
And then yeah, 2 questions from chat. One
Sure.
Susan already answered. If you restrict the website only to the students, what's a good way to make sure that they find it? And then another question about connecting Google websites to other sites, either through QR codes or hyperlinks.
Yeah, you can do either. I think hyperlinks probably works well. As far as letting students see it, if you do that, when we went to publish settings, let's see, we can manage this, and you can let's see, when we asked people to whether or not everybody could see it or not, or people with just the link, you could just share that link. And then you can also request other search engines don't find it. And that's where I thought the tiny URL part works nice. So instead of doing this and giving it to students, don't forget, one of the things that I've always thought works well is, bookmark this on people's computer, which is something that we do often in our computer labs. We'll bookmark it, or we'll set it to be the home page for people. So when students come in and log onto the computers and they open up a browser, boom, right there, the website's there. They don't have to navigate to anything. It's just the main page they see, or have it open up as a tab. You can pin tabs. So if I did this, pin, then whenever I go to, this is Summer Institute, I can leave this here, pin this tab, and that's a site. It's like a bookmark, but it's up here and it automatically opens, but still allows other things to pop up as well. And this pin will stay there even when I close the browser. And then if you ever decide you want to get rid of it, you can just unpin it. Is that helpful as far as students being able to access it? You can also, on most cell phones, at least smartphones, if they can access a browser, you can also have it create a shortcut. So on their cell phone, they'd be able to access it as a shortcut on their cell phone. So that would be another way that students could take a look at it.
We've got some more chat questions for you, Jason. People have good questions in the chat today.
They have great questions.
So let's see. I've got to scroll up to find them because there's been so much happening here in the chat. Okay, a question from Deb. How can you recall the website or close it down? So let's say you built one 2 years ago, that class doesn't exist anymore and you want to get rid of it. How do you do that?
So you go to publish and choose unpublish. And you just unpublish it. The site will no longer be live. You can still make edits and publish your site again because it's still within your Google account, in your Google Sites, the same way as a Google Doc or Google Sheet or Google Slides. It'll still be in that group of Google Docs, but now it's just not live or active to anything. Great. And since it is Google, that should react pretty quickly since it's their stuff and they are the #1 website user. It should be almost instantaneously for them to turn it off unless somebody has it cached in their system. They might be able to get to it, but if they try to link, it wouldn't work.
And then further up the chat chain, there was a question asking about searching for something after you build that URL. So Lorna says, if someone searches Jason BBBB, will it come up without the whole URL? So if they just went to Google and searched that bit of the name, do you think Google would find it?
I think it would. I don't know if it'd be on page 1 or not. You know, I think the more traffic it gets, the more searches tend to move up. I guess if you went Google Sites, JBBBB, it would probably show up pretty quickly. But there might be other things that are JBBB that might be, you know, a movie star, rocket scientist, famous teacher. You know, there's so many JBBBs that are famous and popular out there that it might not come up with my website. People tend to copy my name for things and I can't do much about it. I've tried. Any other questions?
Katrina had a question about how do you create other pages and nest them and have a navigation menu?
Perfect. We were going to get to that. Any other questions before navigation? Anything else before
Oh,
I
and
get to
then there
that?
was a question about, can you add links to other platforms? And the answer to that question would be yes, of course you can put links. And then I think there was also a question about connecting a Google site to Google Classroom a while back. And I think the answer to that is, you know, just in Google Classroom, you could link to your Google site just like you would any other website. But
Yep,
I
that's
think
correct.
the advantage would be for a lot of teachers to using Google Sites instead of Google Classroom would be that you don't have to have your learners have a login to access the stuff, right? So
yeah,
it might be a question of which one is better fit for your setup and the students that you're working with.
yeah. You know, a lot of people like this Google site just for their classroom, or if you're a small program, a Google site is perfectly fine for a website. You know, your students are just going to go there. So unless you're really trying to broadcast out and get a certain domain and, you know, be #1 in AOL search engine or AOL, Google search engines and stuff, this is a perfectly fine, acceptable, proper website. You know, it doesn't have to be super fancy. You know, this is the Literacy Minnesota website where all the poster sessions are. You know, this website took a very long time to create. It does a lot of things, but costs tens of thousands of dollars and staff time and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, we can do the same thing on Google Sites and put in these different ways to get around. Ours was big and expensive because we have a lot of search engine stuff in it and translates it, and we do a lot more than what a normal classroom site would be. We're just going to kind of look at building a nice classroom site. So on to our navigation. So we have a title that you guys picked out. We have a content block. Ooh, I'll call this important stuff. And then we want pages. So next to insert on your right-hand column is pages and themes. And if I can move this out of the way. So if you look, we have our home page. If we click on new page, so if you just scroll down to this plus, there's new page. And we call the new page, we'll just call it new page 1. And you can call it, title it whatever you want. And we can just say done. Now, if you look, automatically you get a home page. It jumps you to your new page right away when you created it. And it put a header up here. If I go to home, I'm back to my classroom page with my important stuff. And my new page 1 is here. So that it will automatically put that in there for you. And if I go to new page 1 and create another new page and say new page 2, then I get a second page. So now I'm on new page 2. And if you want, we can add a sub page. If this is what was asked about earlier. So we start with a home page, then we add a new page, add a new page. Now we're going to make a sub page underneath new page 1. So I'm going to say add a new page or add a sub page, and I will call this sub page. Now, if you take a look up by the home and the new page 1, there's a little arrow, this drop down arrow. Here's my sub page. And I can do that as many times as I want. Oh. Add a sub page 2. Now underneath here, I have sub page and sub page 2. So that's how we navigate. So this could be, if you want, we could change this new page 1. Go to properties and say, these are my classes. Okay. Then I could go to this sub page and go into properties. If I don't want it to be sub page, I will call this math. And here I can do sub page and call this GED classes. So now if I go up to classes, I have math and I have sub page 2. Whoop. Yeah. Oh, I did a sub page under a sub page. Let's see if I can drag and drop this.
Question from chat about terminology.
Yep.
Are these pages sort of like a toolbar?
Yes. Yep. The same way the bottom of your screen has links to different things on the toolbar. This could certainly be a toolbar or a menu.
And then there was one question about somebody was adding pages and they were all showing up under a drop-down menu, and she wanted them, side to side across the top of the page like yours were. And I thought it was probably because they were made as sub pages instead of
Correct.
head pages on. And she tried that and it fixed it, so that was correct. So yeah, if you don't want drop-down menu, don't make them sub pages. Make each page a separate thing.
Yep. And these are drag and drop. So if I wanted, I could take this GED classes and move it up to home. And now it became a sub page here. Oh, here, let me show you what I did here. On the far left where it says enter your site name, I'll call this Jason site. This navigation setting. So if you go to the left, you should get this gear navigation setting. And what I did on navigation is it had side or top. This is at top. If you like your navigation menu off to the side, I put it so it's there, so it's a drop down like many of them have it. But if it's easier for your students to navigate, we can change that back to top. And then it just appears here. And where this may come into play, and one of the things that I really like about Google Sites is that we get to preview this. So right above our menu at the top where it says home classes, on mine it's untitled page 2. there's this group of toolbars. So to the left of our publish button is this preview button. It kind of looks like a little screen and or two little boxes. So I'm going to click preview. So right now, this is how your website looks on a computer screen. Right, so it looks like it fits pretty well. This is what it looks like on a tablet. So if you guys are using tablets, Android tablets for your classes, it will look like this. This is an actual preview of the normal settings that are on a tablet. So you can kind of figure out how it looks on different devices. And maybe most importantly, if this is an information page for your classroom on your phone. So as you can see, it auto adjusted. And you can also notice that it went from having these pages up here. When I went to phone, it automatically shifted it to having a drop down menu up at the top, and it'll do that. And that's on purpose so that it doesn't scrunch up everything at the top here, because you wouldn't be able to see everything. And so it auto formats for whatever screen size you're going to use. And what that'll be useful for is, I'm going to exit out of this preview mode. Just click exit. There's a blue X here. Right. So if we have a bunch of content blocks, right? Because your website probably won't just be this, but it could be this. Maybe you just want links up here and keep each page separate. But if it's a whole program page and you put, oh, here's student of the week, and here's our graduates, and maybe here's a calendar of events, and don't forget about this, and click here to do something else. If your page is more complicated, you can check to see how it looks on your screen. So you can decide how much scrolling you really want your students to do.
I love that you can check what it looks like on a mobile device, since so many of our students mainly access the internet on their mobile devices. You can check and see if your classroom website is usable in that format. That is such a great feature.
Yeah, you know, it used to be not that long ago where you would have a developer build you a website, one for users of the laptop and one for cell phone users. So people were actually having to develop different sites, and you'd have to pull away content. And did a lot more work. This automatically does it for you, but because you have this nice preview mode, you can kind of decide how much you want to put on here. If your students will primarily be using their cell phone, then maybe you just want less information and just have it more menu driven. You know, find more things by clicking rather than scrolling, which sometimes isn't so easy to navigate on cell phones. So that's an option for you.
Do you have time for another question, Jason?
Yes.
So a little while back in the chat, there was a question about embedding a screencast from something like Screencastify.
Nice. Why, if we look over here, we have underneath insert, we have embed. And you can put in whatever code you want in here and embed it. And that includes YouTube videos, if you have the code for that. Or Screencastify, or you could put a Wakelet in there, I'm sure, if you wanted. You can embed whatever you would like in there. So yes, that embed section is already pre-thought of for you.
Sweet. And I know you can embed things from your Google Drive too. So if you've got documents, or you've got a Google Calendar for your class or something, you can embed those straight from Google. And then there's a question from Mary Beth in the chat asking about connecting Google sites to each other. So if every teacher at the program has their own separate site, could the main school have like a global one that links out to all the teacher ones?
Yep. Yeah, you just put it in the URL Let's see. Oh. Let's see if this works. Sorry, got my slashes backwards. So let's see.
I think they're backwards now.
Oh.
You probably need the S though, HTTPS.
Yeah,
right?
that's was my
That's
next
probably
thought.
the issue. That's probably why I didn't like it.
So we'll insert that, and right now it's there. And I can move this up, just drag and drop it. So if you want to have somebody's homepage here, go ahead. You could also do it with your classes. So you could have a teacher in here instead and say, go to Mrs. Johnson's class, go to Mr. Brazier's class. And you click on it, and then it comes up with whatever the classroom theirs is. So if I preview this and click on it, it brings me to there because this is live because it's a published site.
So we have one comment saying that they were previously daunted by the idea of making a web page, but this looks very amazing and easy.
Yeah, I think this is super easy for people. So when you talked about embedding before, not just websites, you can put in whatever images you want. You can create new text box. You can upload from your drive, and they pre-format all these for you. You can do collapsible groups. If you want to do a table of contents, you can do that on your website. You could do an image carousel, which is where it flips images like a rotating bunch of images, I guess. If you want to create a button, some people really like buttons. So we can do a button. We will name this button 1. Click here. And I'm going to try this just for fun because I've had this saved up in my click here for a classroom template. So I'm going to insert this button. So now I actually have a button on my website, and you can make it go wherever you want. But on mine, preview, button. So this is actually a template. And I believe Tracy Peterson was kind enough to share this. She was one of the presenters this April. She does a great job. She's wonderful. If you see her, tell her I told her that she's wonderful. She created a template.
She's here today.
Oh, hi, Tracy. And so I'm going to have this link for you. And so you can look at how she created some of their classrooms. So classroom description, here's your information. Here's a schedule, weekly sessions, buttons to each week. So if you click week 2, it brings you to week 2. So you can link to your buttons or to your other pages from the buttons. Additional resources. She just put in a page called that. These are ones I put in, the student Zoom guide, or maybe this might have been hers. Google Classroom add-ons. That's a poster session I did the other day. So if you want to look at poster sessions, there's Google Classroom add-ons. And then free and remote blended learning lessons. I put in a link to that because I found this. A whole bunch of different free things for people to play with.
Yeah.
That
And
people
Jason,
compiled over COVID.
Can you go back to the editing page and point out the undo button?
Okay. Control Z undos. Or trash can.
And then there's actually the little arrows up at the top, undo and redo
Yep.
too.
Yep, that
Mhm.
is correct. Undo last action.
And then there was another question in the chat asking for a show again how to insert a link. I think
Sure.
that one.
Yep. So we can, if you want to put a link in, we can just embed and by URL. So enter in whatever URL you want. It wants that HD. There we go. S. Get embed.
Oh, Google doesn't want to let themselves be embedded.
Got it. Thanks, Google.
You can't
Okay.
embed Google in Google. It won't let you.
How about New Readers Press?
Nope, they don't want to be embedded either. So if you just wanted
Wow.
to do a link instead of an embed, I think if you're just in a text
Yep.
block, you can just
Yep.
put a link too.
I
Because
think
sometimes websites just don't want to let you embed their content in somebody else's site because they feel like you're stealing their content. So a link
Yeah.
might be the only option.
Yeah.
And then,
So
well,
come and there we go.
and then another question, do you know if there's feature to add a direct messaging feature to the website?
I don't know if they have that yet. Do you know, Susan?
Not that I know of. I know there's like a chat feature in Google Docs where there used to be, but it would be only within people who had share access to the document, right? I
Yep.
don't think there's something like that for Google Sites that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there may be an add-in somewhere. Somebody probably hacked some code to put it in with an embed thing
Mhm.
where you can leave messages. I always kind of worry about that because you don't know what someone's going to populate your stuff with. You'd have to research it. I don't know right now. One other thing on here that I want to show you guys is so this sharing. If you decide that you don't want everyone to look at it yet, but you want your staff to look at it. So say you decide to, as a group in your program, you want a website and you decide 2 or 3 people should be working on it. You can just share it with those people and let them play with it. So more than one person can work on it at one time. The same way you would a Google Doc or anything else, but you could do that without publishing it to the public. So doing through the share settings, you can do that. Okay. I want to.
So I think we are just about at time.
Yeah,
Lorna
I
was
did.
asking for the links to the templates.
Yep. And when I can, let's see, share my screen. I want to get back to there we go. This is what I wanted right here. Paste. This is the template that was shared with me that I was told I could share. So you can just make a copy of this template. Also in the handouts that I have. Here we go. This is what I want. Wrong way. It'll be in my handouts here. And here I did the same thing with this tiny URL. So you can see that that works as well. These handouts are linked in the description of this session. I also put on a Google Slides cheat sheet. The slides from the Google Sites showcase that we did in April, so you'll have access to that. And then also, if you want to watch that showcase, we did record it as a webinar. So you can look through the other great sites that people did. And along with Tracy, Mary Kate, and Joyce showed their sites as well, and they discussed how they used them. So that's a nice little video to watch. And then there's a YouTuber that I like to follow sometimes, Pocket Full of Primary. She had a nice session about creating Google Sites as well. She was a primary school educator, K through 12, but recently she stopped and just became a full-time YouTuber, kind of discussing classroom stuff and technology. She has some nice insights on things. I think I watched, besides my own knowledge, I watched 5 or 6 different YouTube videos trying to pick out different things that I thought would be valuable to you. So it's a hodgepodge of other things, but YouTube has great sites. Thanks for coming. I think we're probably over time. Are we over time or not?
Yes,
We
I
are,
think we are by
yeah.
a couple minutes, so we
Okay,
need to
all
wrap
right.
up.
Thank
But there was
Thanks
a
so
question
much.
in the chat about the template and not being able to access it because it's published. So I think that template was shared by Tracy, and Tracy's here in the chat, so maybe you can follow up with her directly. Oh, yep, she put her email address in the chat, so you can follow up with her directly and get that question answered.
So thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Tracy, for your assistance. Feel free to email me too if you have any questions. Don't forget to fill out your survey at the end of the conference to get your CEUs. That really helps us know what you want to see next year. Thanks, guys. I'm going to stop the recording.
All right, bye.